My art tells the future. This one comes at us from Mr. underscore Charms underscore 505. To say this one is deep and thought provoking would be an understatement. It's about a guy who I'm going to call the artist because we never hear his name, that develops a love for sculpting at a young age, and throughout his life, he pursues it as not only a hobby, but a potential career. He talks about an incident when he was a teenager where he made his uncle a bowl for his 57th birthday, and he tried a different style of sculpting called kintsugi. But unfortunately, something goes wrong, and the bowl comes out looking blackened and really not the golden color that the artist was hoping for at all. 6 months after this, his uncle is diagnosed with stage 4 lung cancer and dies from that 3 months later. The artist gets a hold of his uncle's x rays and notices something really disturbing. The pattern of the bowl that he made for his uncle looks exactly like the x rays of his uncle's lungs. Yeah, pretty disturbing. This traumatizes the artist, and he decides never to do kintsugi ever again. A few years pass, and an old classmate of his asks him to make him some kind of dragon or a goblet of some sort, but the artist decides to make a vase with some cherry blossoms on it. But something also goes wrong here as well. The color of the cherry blossoms after coming out of the kiln aren't colored right. Rather than the pinkish kind of color like actual cherry blossoms or whatever, they're blood red. And also in a different pattern than they were beforehand. Despite this, he gives it to his friend anyway, and he actually really loves it. Tragedy would strike again, and we find out that the artist's friend was killed by a drunk driver that had fell asleep behind the wheel of a semi-truck and hit him, his splattered blood resembling the cherry blossoms on the vase. As the years go on, 4 more people that the artist cares about have died, the common denominator being sculptures that he made for them. This makes him give up sculpting. Not hard to see why. We find out later that when he was a little kid, he made a clay figure for his dad, and his dad still has that clay figure, which makes his blood run cold, and much like the previous times, his dad is killed. Also, just like the previous times, the clay sculpture he gave his dad somewhat foreshadowed the events. This is the final straw for the artist, and he makes a small clay sculpture of himself. He watches it fall off of a counter and shatter as it hits the stone pavement floor. It's at this point in the story that we find out this is basically a suicide letter from the artist being typed out before jumping to his death. I gotta be honest, this one was phenomenal. I really enjoyed this one. Now, I know I kind of skimmed through it pretty fast, but I really think the writing in this one was really good. It was very deep and poetic, almost like it was written like the point of view of from an artist. I really like the authentic feel to it, and I think that's its greatest strength. It might not be the scariest or the most supernatural, but it's still pretty damn good, and I highly recommend it nonetheless. I'm going to give it an A. This one is really good. I really did enjoy this one. Like I said, it might not be the scariest one I've ever read, but definitely very thought provoking, very, very deep. I cannot recommend this one enough.